a left, right out, kind of in a weird location, but I'm going to talk about this gun thing because listening to Biden yesterday, and then I was going to just go over his speech, but then I heard something from that dude from New York, and then another guy from Tennessee, which is a very interesting area of the country to have somebody that has this kind of view on so-called, whatever, assault rifles, which that term is thrown around and doesn't even mean what they think it means. That's a whole topic in and of itself. This gentleman, I've had this argument that the southern states, having been around them for a little bit now, isn't the gun culture that everybody thinks it is. I believe the western states actually are more of a gun culture. I think more people in general, or it was, within the last 10 years, more people in general in the West have a more in-touch understanding of weapons and what their capabilities are, and either tangentially or whatnot. But here, where I'm currently at, which is, I consider more of a southern, I guess, Midwestern state, there's a lot of people that have no idea, that don't come in contact with firearms hardly at all. And it's not taught anymore. There's not that many areas to go shoot as there is out in the western states. So that culture is being lost down here, even though, it's ingrained in people's mind to stand up, which is good. That's good. Ingrained in people's mind to stand up for their right to keep and bear arms if they so choose. And I do see people packing, which is, I actually like. I mean, I see guys open carrying, at least sidearms, which is, I can tell, I can discern from a moment, and just if that guy's, got training, or how he carries himself with that firearm. But regardless, let's get into this. So that gentleman from Tennessee will go in. Everybody's watching Biden stuff, and you can probably find a lot of people talking about it. He attacks the AR-15 as though it's some kind of, it's just a platform, people. It's a sporting rifle. Attacks it as if it's some kind of, ring of Voldemort or something, that, like, this whole thing is just, you get it in your hand and it turns you into some kind of monster, which in my opinion, the AR-15 is one of the greatest sporting rifles there is. I love it. And not only would I use it for the home defense, but if I had to take down multiple suspects, that would be my weapon of choice, rifle of choice, with 30-round magazines, because I don't like the tactical reload. Even guys that are highly trained have issues with tactical reloading sometimes in the heat of battle when your blood's flowing. So you expect average person to be able to do that, when they're only allowed to carry 10, 15 rounds. I want the 30-round mag. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to have banana clips and go around plunking prairie dogs. It was awesome. But anyway, so the AR-15 is a pariah. So let's go into this guy, Tennessee. I can't remember his name. Just heard it. He was talking about how an assault weapon, which he was identified as the AR-15, is a weapon of war, and that people that, these kids, you won't be able to recognize them, that people that are shot with them, you have to identify them through DNA. You can't tell that that's a person. I don't understand how these people have a platform to even talk about guns when they don't understand that it is a platform and it shoots a certain caliber rifle, and that same cartridge is available for other platforms, and depending on barrel length and whatnot, you can have the same ballistic characteristics. So I would like to ask them, like, for a Ruger Mini 14, if you've ever seen those, like, the saddle guns, or that's what we call them out west, because they're really cool rifles, but they don't look as aesthetically menacing to these people if there's a difference there. And I think Crowder's done some stuff on this, and most of these people can't really identify that, despite the fact that they shoot the same round. And in fact, if you took, like, some AR-15s, which, depending on barrel length, Mini 14, a Ruger, you think might have greater velocity out of the barrel with the 223 or 5.56, whatever the case may be, which is the predominant caliber that is utilized in the AR-15 platform. So these guys, when they speak of this as though this rifle itself somehow, gives this bullet advanced ballistic characteristics, they have no idea what they're talking about. It's literally a platform. It is something, a delivery mechanism, and they don't understand the basic physics of these things, how they operate. So it's hard for me to take them seriously. It'd be one thing if they understood that we're talking about bullets, but when they use these terms like, oh, you can't identify by it rips lungs out, it does all this other stuff, which I guess, depending on what kind of bullet you're using, if you're using a full metal jacket bullet, the majority of the time, unless you hit bone or some kind of other hard structure, it could just punch right through you. But like a hunting round, let's take that. So in their argument to me, and I think some guys that might be open to whatever restricting, this guy almost ran a red light, restricting certain things, when they hear that kind of argument, a logical person goes, well, that's a 223 round. And I go like elk hunting or whatever, and I'm using a 7 mag with a 165 grain bullet, and this is 5.56, or we're looking at 50. I guess the most popular grainage would be like 55 grain. I mean, you get 65, and there's some variations there, but 55 grain is what most people use in their ARs. So I'm like, okay, well, I got a 7 mag. It's a 165 grain bullet, and you can get them up a little bit higher. You can get them a little lower. And this one's also in mushrooms, and when I shoot an elk, it blows out sometimes. Depending, like it has a pretty nasty exit wound. It's like, well, then what's to stop them from using that same argument to then go after those other rounds? So that's where, my head, that's one way I go about it. I was like, wait, these guys don't understand that the difference between these bullets and these ballistic characteristics of these rifles and the mechanism. So what they're, so that when they use that, I go to that argument because I'm, well versed in firearms. But then I go to this other side of things because I know what their intent is. They're looking at this, they call it assault rifle, which they need to do a little bit of research, which they never do in these things. But we will go back to I think roughly World War II is when they came out. I think it was Sturmgewehr 44, which was a German one. And I believe, they've changed the definition, just like they've changed the definition of inflation. But assault rifle had to do with the selecting fire in a more combat rifle with larger capacity magazines than currently of the day, right? So, what can you extrapolate to present day as maybe a select fire switch, which if you look at the AR-15 platform that you are utilizing as a civilian, you have 2 modes. You have safe and you have fire, which is a semi-automatic. It only fires as much as your finger can account for it. You pull the trigger and a bullet comes out, similar to a bolt-action rifle. The only difference is that it feeds from the magazine, and you can get varying capacity magazines, which the standard for the AR-15 has been the 30-round mag. And I don't even, I have some, and I just load them with 20s. It's just the way I operate. But anyway, so if you want to use the term assault rifle, it'd be more applicable with the current definition would be military style rifles, which would be, the M4, M16, and you have that select fire switch. So you go from safe to semi, which would be what you have in an AR, to 3-round burst. And I guess in Vietnam they had, full auto, and they probably have some other variations, but the 3-round burst, which it's fun. I'll be honest. I kind of wish I had it as a civilian just to go plinking around, but it's not as accurate. And one of the reasons the military got rid of the fully auto ARs was the fact that you had a lot of wasted rounds. It's hard to stay on target because you have the sorry, there's people walking around. You have the kick of the rifle, and it's just, you tend to walk up, so it's hard to keep on target. So it's just a lot better for them to go, well, we'll just do a semi-auto and then the 3-round burst. If you need to have, some real suppressing fire, it allows you to correct the weapon and get it, back on target. So just walking it up and highly inaccurate. But I can go into a whole lot of other things when we talk about training. The reason why you need, or somebody that was using a AR-15 for home defense, why you would want a high capacity, whatever they call it, the standard magazine, a 30-round magazine, and why you would want that rifle over a shotgun, or especially if you're a small statured person and a female, why you'd want these rifles for self-defense. Why you'd want them, and why I encouraged people that I trained in active shooter stuff to have these in go bags. Not only that, to have the sidearm, because if you are not wanting to combat reload, which can be precarious if you're in the wrong situation, to be able to transition from the AR to a sidearm, which is a little bit less accurate, I believe, in my opinion, from my experience of watching people and myself. Any kind of handgun, to me, with, there's always exceptions, is a little less accurate and a little harder to wield in CQB. Granted, it's smaller stature and you can keep it close to yourself, but I like my AR platform in order to do that. In 3-gun shooting, guys that do that probably understand that, because they have to transition. So that being able to transition. I'm going into the whole other thing, but I own an AR and I won't give it up. I mean, I love it. I love plinking around. I actually got my first AR, and with the intention, one, that I thought they were going to ban them, but two, I was like, this is going to be, granted, it's not the greatest hunting round, the 223. It's good for, varmints, coyotes, prairie dogs and stuff. But I was like, well, maybe I can get, if I load it outright, I can use it as a river bottom whitetail gun. And then I end up just having fun with it, setting up targets and just shooting, which a lot of these people that are talking, that's the other thing. That's my last topic, side note on this, is, or for now, and if also, anyway, so the other thing is, a lot of these guys don't have any experience with this. And I remember the article, a number of years ago, the guy that had like a PTSD from shooting an AR. And then I watched the general of all things in the Army, which really, like, he couldn't even handle one, which is like, what the hell were you doing the entire time you were in the service? But anyway, it's one of those things I just hate, because these guys obviously don't have any experience with it. And I encourage some of them to, hey, you need to go out, if you want to understand the topic, which I give, like Anthony Bourdain went to New Mexico and like got some experience with the shooting culture, and it was good to see a guy on that side of the aisle, or that persuasion, to be enlightened to that firearms culture. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. A lot of stuff I could get into. If you got any questions, let me know. I offer if any kind of advice, but anyway, peace.